Welcome to Dejobnik, your command post for clarity and perspective.
Tal, it's so good to see you. The U.S. and Israel have a deep and lasting relationship. I wonder, has Biden communicated a red line to Netanyahu? And if so, why did he feel the need to make it public?
Thank you for having me on, Trey. Good to see you, too. You see, we have a red line. Our prime minister just stated it a few days ago. We have a red line that we're not going to leave 4 Hamas operational battalions in Rafah. We've gotten to this point in which we've taken out the majority of Hamas's military capabilities, 3/4 of their battalions. We're not going to leave the rest of them untouched. That's a red line. And that's a decision that we took as a nation. It's not a prime minister. It's not a war cabinet. It's not the IDF that just took this decision. It's a nation that took a decision that we will no longer accept life next to a terror enclave and that October 7th cannot happen again. Now, what would happen if these battalions would be left untouched? Hamas will rearm, regroup, and attack us again. And you and I will have this conversation again down the road. We cannot allow this to happen. This is our red line.
All right, let's take a listen to Biden's Secretary of State, Tony Blinken, and I'll ask you a question on the other side.
If there are going to be military operations in Rafah, a clear and implementable plan to get the civilians out of harm's way and to provide for them once out of harm's way. We have not seen that plan.
I won't give you a chance to assure Secretary Blinken that you are just as concerned about civilian casualties as he is. I find the lecture to be somewhat interesting from Blinken to Israelis. Israelis are surrounded by enemies, but what is Israel doing to limit civilian casualties?
You see, we have the plans. They were presented to the war cabinet. The prime minister has approved the plans for Rafah, and they will achieve 2 goals: the elimination of the Hamas battalions there and the evacuation of civilians from the fighting zones. Once we move forward with the plan, with the strategic plan, we will, of course, take care of the civilian population there. There's no question about it.
But before I let you go, Senator Chuck Schumer is apparently not content mismanaging his own country. He has some advice for Israel as well. I want us to listen together, and then I'll ask you a question before we go.
At this critical juncture, I believe a new election is the only way to allow for a healthy and open decision-making process about the future of Israel. Of course, the United States cannot dictate the outcome of an election, nor should we try. That is for the Israeli public to decide.
I think it's pretty spectacular in a really bad way that the Senate Majority Leader is calling for the removal of the head of state of an ally, but I'll give you the last word.
Trey, Israel is a sovereign nation, of course. We're a democracy. In a democracy, this concept where the citizens choose their own government, who leads them. And right now, in case someone hasn't noticed, we have a unity government in place, which is reflective, really, of the public sentiment that you really see across Israel. Now, the prime minister represents the overwhelming majority of Israelis who reject the notion of a Palestinian terror state. And the impediment to peace, and I mean real peace, not just empty slogans, is Palestinian terrorism and their refusal to acknowledge that the Jewish state, the state of Israel, is here to stay. After 9/11, President George W. Bush said, either you're with us or you are with the terrorists. And 20 years later, we simply ask the same question. Are you with us or with the terrorists?
You're a lot more diplomatic than I am, Tal. I think Chuck Schumer is a joke, is a bad joke, and he has no business whatsoever lecturing any other sovereign nation on who their leader ought to be, especially an ally like Israel. But you're more diplomatic than I am. Thank you for joining us on a Sunday night. We will have this conversation again, I am sure.
Thanks for watching. Drop a comment below. Don't forget to like, share, and hit subscribe to stay updated with our latest content. Until next time, stay informed and inspired. This is Dejobnik signing off.